Now let's take a look at Doc Councilman in the swimming revolution at Indiana University.
Rarely is there an individual so important to a sport that they can be called a founding father long after the sport has been invented. But Doc Councilman completely revolutionized the sport of swimming.
IU has produced a ton of gold, silver, and bronze medalists for multiple countries. I think if you look at swimming and diving across all schools in the country, none would stand as tall as the Indiana Swimming and Diving program. It went into hyperdrive when Doc Councilman became the head coach.
Doc Councilman was the premier swim coach of his era, from probably the 1950s through the 1990s. Most universities want to have an image nationally and internationally, and Doc almost single-handedly secured that for Indiana University, primarily because of his innovation, marrying, let's say, science and the scientific process with how one would prepare elite athletes. That's what set us apart. One of the innovations that people don't recognize readily is just putting a panel on the side of a swimming suit. We think of that as being something style-wise, but Doc was curious as the effect of the hips, what was going on with the hips when the swimmers were swimming. And so he had Marge, his wife, sew a panel on so he could keep track of that. Well, the athletes loved it, and you know, the rest is history.
You can actually break the history of swimming into two equal parts. Swimming competitively before Doc Councilman and swimming after Doc Councilman. The way that he studied strokes, observing the swimmers from underwater, using the underwater cameras in order to analyze swim strokes to maximize the performance of his athletes. His books are basically the canon of swimming.
This was the center of the swimming universe, and coaches and athletes from around the world, this was like a United Nations during the summers and the fall when people would come from all corners of the world just to see what Doc was doing. It's like, what's next?
And in a lot of ways, he was like an enigma. I mean, he was a character. He was funny. He was witty. He was creative. He had a lot of energy. There was never a dull moment. I caught him after he had built the program, and it was nationally renowned, world renowned, and so you were expected to perform at a level.
He saw his job was to influence the performance of these athletes, to get them to do things they didn't think they could do or didn't really want to do in terms of training and practices.
The 1972 team, in fact, might be the greatest college team ever assembled. It is my understanding, had they taken on planet Earth in a dual meet, IU would have won. That's how impressive the swim program was in that era for Indiana. To this day, the swim team has on their warm-up T-shirts that they wear, it says, "What's up, Doc?" on the back. His fingerprints are all over the program. There are banners, notables from his program. He is a towering figure in the history of Indiana athletics.
While we focus on the swimming, he really changed sport in general. You know, that the application of science, that was all done right here at Indiana University, and this was literally the hub of that for many, many, many years.
In Bloomington, I'm Samantha Dawig for This Is Indiana.